It happened! The era of Shaheds is over. Ukraine completely dominates the skies and shoots down 97% of Russian drones. Our air defense has nullified the effectiveness of Russian attacks. The Federation wastes $70 million on a single launch for a miserable 5% success rate. And there's also a dead end for the generals. The Russian military leadership no longer knows what to do with conventional gasoline-powered drones. How did Ukrainian innovations break Putin's strategy of terror? Greetings! This is the channel Ukraine Today. About the total failure of the Shaheds and our triumph in the skies coming up right now. My name is Andrei Silikov and let's get started. The era of Russian Shaheds is coming to its inglorious end. Ukraine has carried out a true technological revolution in air defense and now completely dominates its own skies. The innovative methods of our defense forces have almost nullified the effectiveness of the much-vaunted scrap metal. This was stated by the President's advisor on defense industry issues, Oleksandr Kamyshin.
Now we can shoot down 97% of Shaheds. Personally, I was surprised that someone started an attack on Iran without first studying solutions against Shaheds, either for themselves or for their regional allies.
Because of this, the Kremlin's strategy of aerial terror has suffered a total financial collapse. As stated by Deputy Defense Minister's advisor Serhiy Flesh, Ukrainian defenders have put Putin's generals in a very tough dilemma regarding the future of classic gasoline-powered drones. The aggressor country continues to burn through colossal budgets for their procurement and production, but the effectiveness of these attacks is rapidly and steadily hitting rock bottom.
To launch Shaheds worth $70 million in a single massive wave, with a questionable success rate of about 5%, is a utopia, as noted by the expert Serhiy Flesh. The expert emphasized that none of the technical countermeasures the enemy is frantically trying to implement on their UAVs against Ukrainian interceptor drones have managed to effectively resolve this critical issue for the Kremlin on a global scale.
Today, even the Russian leadership, which traditionally does not count the cost of war, is beginning to realize the complete economic impracticality of such strikes. Russia is simply throwing away billions, time and again trying to break through our steel shield. All the occupiers' pathetic attempts to save the situation have completely failed.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian defenders are actively implementing innovative solutions to intercept enemy drones even as they approach peaceful cities. In particular, the domestic company MacHub has developed a sophisticated new unmanned boat, the Katran X 1.2, which is fully capable of carrying out critical air defense tasks directly in the open waters of the Black Sea.
None of the technical tricks or new countermeasures that the enemy tries to implement on their drones have solved the problem on a large scale. Ukrainian interceptor drones have proven to be faster, smarter, and more precise, turning the noisy gasoline-powered Shaheds into easy and completely defenseless targets right in the air. Our tremendous experience in fighting drones has already caused a real sensation in the West. The highly respected publication, The Wall Street Journal, notes that in 4 years of intensive war, Ukraine has successfully created one of the most sophisticated and effective air defense systems in the entire world. Oleksandr Kamyshin openly wonders how anyone could even start a conflict with Iran without first studying the ingenious Ukrainian methods for destroying their notorious Shahed-style drones.
Now we can shoot down 97% of Shaheds. Personally, I was surprised that someone started an attack on Iran without first having researched solutions against Shaheds, either for themselves or for their regional allies, Kamyshin said. He added that Ukraine is ready to share its experience with its partners. Of course, we were happy to help. And
now there is a long line of international allies waiting for our new technologies. Ukrainian defense companies have already begun close cooperation with partners from Saudi Arabia. Amid the sharp escalation in the Middle East, the countries of the Persian Gulf are urgently seeking new solutions for modern warfare. And Ukraine is gladly ready to share its unique combat experience for the sake of global security.
Ukrainian defense companies are already cooperating with Saudi partners in the field of unmanned systems and countering Iranian Shaheds. Cooperation with countries in the region could significantly intensify against the backdrop of the escalation surrounding Iran. Ukrainian defense technologies are highly relevant because they reflect a dynamic and active innovative environment where systems are rapidly developed, adapted, and improved, said Idris Al-Zakari, head of the science technology company from Riyadh.
As Arab experts note, Ukrainian defense technologies are more relevant today than ever before. They reflect an incredibly active, innovative environment where interception systems are developed and improved right on the battlefield at lightning speed. The Kremlin has finally driven itself into a dead end. While Russia squanders millions on useless junk, Ukraine is setting new rules for technological warfare and becoming the main defender of the world's skies. And while our drones are scorching Russian rear positions, the economic noose around the Kremlin's neck must tighten even further. President Volodymyr Zelensky firmly stated all sanctions against Russia must continue to work because any concession to the aggressor puts the security of the entire world at risk. Western partners have already recognized the phenomenal success of our long-range sanctions. See how exactly we will finish off Putin's system in our report.
Kiev's partners note the strengthening of Ukraine's position both on the battlefield and as a result of successful strikes on military factories and logistical hubs deep inside Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated this following a video conference with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The allies also discussed the detailed preparations for peace talks involving Europe. Volodymyr Zelensky noted,
"This is significant, and it is precisely this kind of pressure from us that can push towards the right and effective diplomacy. It has been mutually agreed upon that our national security advisors will meet in the very near future. Our intelligence teams will collaborate to exchange all available information in much greater detail. We also discussed communication with the American side. We are doing everything to achieve a true peace. Glory to Ukraine." Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Since the beginning of the year, Ukraine's defense forces have liberated 590 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory from Russian occupiers, stated Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukrainian long-range strikes are also demonstrating high effectiveness. For example, on May 23rd, the Security Service of Ukraine struck the Metafrax Chemicals chemical plant in Perm-Krai. The head of state also emphasizes that Ukraine's defense forces are delivering effective strikes against Russia's oil and gas industry.
"I thank the armed forces of Ukraine. They continue to respond justly against facilities of the Russian oil industry. These include Novorossiysk, the oil terminal, and the oil transshipment facility. And it is right that Russia is losing export revenues from oil. It is precisely thanks to oil and gas that Russia has become so arrogant, allowing itself to wage war in the modern world and continue threatening everyone else. All forms of sanctions against Russia and its accomplices must continue to work. And every weakening of sanctions also undermines global security and delays peace."
Experts state that Russia does not have real military and strategic resources to intensify the escalation. At the same time, Kiev's partners are helping to expand Ukraine's long-range capabilities. Defense Express has calculated that this year, 10 drone manufacturing plants will open across Europe. Analysts are confident that the Kremlin's chances of winning a war of attrition are diminishing.
A significant and increasing number of drones that strike various targets within the Russian Federation are either partially or fully produced, including on European territory. Russia is aware of this but is absolutely powerless in this matter. After all, launching an attack against the territory of European countries would essentially mean the formal declaration of a full-scale war against NATO. And Russia is not prepared for that today. And under these circumstances, we see that the Kremlin is essentially demonstrating a clear refusal to acknowledge reality. Because by refusing dialogue with Europe, Russia is only inevitably extending the duration of its own systemic decline, both economically and in terms of military spending.
We are at a turning point in the war, when Russian manpower is no longer a decisive advantage, wrote Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs on social network X. A new impetus is needed in peace efforts, along with the strengthening of special long-term sanctions and other levers of influence, the diplomat believes.
We are at war.
We need to move to a new format of negotiations with the Russian side. There are two possible approaches here. The more active one involves the participation of the European side. The second is a meeting between Ukrainian President Zelensky and Putin. We believe that it is precisely a meeting between Zelensky and Putin that could bring concrete results. And not just progress, but an additional impetus to end the war. Specifically to end the war.
Against the backdrop of Western aid to Ukraine and improvements for it on the front lines, the Russian dictator Putin may reconsider his calculations and change his mind about continuing the war. This was stated by Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski. Earlier, he also suggested that if Putin were still able to resort to serious escalation, he would have done so. But there are hardly any options left. Andrei Dimitrenko for Freedom TV channel.
And NATO is ready to respond firmly to any insane accusations and blackmail from the Kremlin. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called Moscow's claim that the Baltic countries have supposedly opened their airspace for Ukrainian strikes complete nonsense. Moreover, Rutte directly warned, if Russia dares to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine, NATO's response will be devastating. All the details about the reaction of world leaders to the dictator's latest threats, watch right now.
The development of the first Ukrainian glide bomb, created with the support of the Brave One defense cluster, took 17 months. And now the Ministry of Defense has purchased the first experimental batch. As stated by Ukraine's Minister of Defense Mikhailo Fedorov, pilots are practicing combat scenarios and adapting the use of the weapon in real wartime conditions. This is a unique bomb developed from scratch by Ukrainian engineers without any Western or Soviet technologies. Its warhead weighs 250 kilograms and it is capable of striking targets dozens of kilometers away.
Ukraine is currently transitioning from importing individual solutions to the independent development of its own high-tech weapons, which systematically strengthen the defense forces and deliver a significant technological advantage on the battlefield. Very soon, Ukrainian KABs will begin striking enemy targets. We are expanding the scale of innovative solutions that increase the range and accuracy of strikes and change the rules of modern warfare. Mikhailo Fedorov, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Ukraine is also actively developing and producing a new generation of unmanned systems. For example, the Chakloon interceptor drone has a mission success rate of 88 to 100%, according to Ivan Andrushchak, a representative of the UAV manufacturer. This is because even if the mission is not completed, the drone can be safely returned, fully serviced, and reused again. Ukraine presented this UAV model and other domestically developed weapons at the international exhibition SHAHED 2026. This is a defense and aerospace industry exhibition that took place in Istanbul from May 5th to 9th. Ukraine was represented by 15 companies at the Joint National Zbroya stand. The Chakloon jet interceptor drone is a multifunctional mobile system designed for aerial visual reconnaissance. It can reach speeds of up to 320 kilometers per hour and stay airborne for up to 3 hours. And importantly, it can operate at low altitudes.
The current conflict in the Middle East has shown that even the world's leading international defense corporations do not have effective protection against low-cost yet highly precise aerial threats like Shahed-type drones. But we have it because we have already gained significant first-hand experience in countering such attacks. Ukraine has successfully developed and implemented strategic countermeasures to these challenges and is now effectively using interceptors on the battlefield. That is why there is such high interest in these systems. Ivan Andrushchak, representative of the Ukrainian UAV manufacturer Chakloon.
European allies have seen how effective Ukrainian technologies and developments are in combat, which is why they continue to expand cooperation with Ukraine in the field of security and defense. Thus, Ukraine and Lithuania have signed an agreement within the framework of the Drone Deal project. President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope that a similar agreement will be signed with Latvia as well. Ukraine will send its experts to partner countries to exchange experience and strengthen the security of states against expanding Russian aggression. Meanwhile, a Dutch and a German company are accelerating the development of the new long-range missile Rutte Block 3 with a range of 2,000 kilometers. The Block 2 version, created with the support of the Ukrainian cluster Brave One, is currently being tested in Ukraine. This year its production is planned to be increased.
Europe must have its own comprehensive missile defense systems and be fully self-sufficient and capable in countering these threats. We repeat once again, we need our own missile defense and the immediate strengthening of Ukrainian air defense at this very moment. This week we are working closely with our partners to strengthen the protection of the lives of our citizens. Thank you to everyone who is already working on this together with Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Ukrainian weapons are already successfully fulfilling their tasks. On May 17th, in the Moscow region of the Russian Federation, the Angstrom enterprise, which specializes in the production of microchips for precision weaponry, was struck, according to the Ukrainian General Staff. The Solnekhnogorskaya pumping station, which is used for pumping, storing, and shipping large volumes of gasoline and diesel fuel, including for the Russian army, was also successfully targeted and hit.
The more such strikes there are, the more their entire air defense network is systematically breached and compromised. Everything that is now protecting the capital, and especially if strikes reach the very center of the capital, then that will already be, the total and complete collapse of their strategic policy framework and their fundamental decision-making paradigm that they have relied upon. that is, then they will have to engage in negotiations from a significantly weakened and vulnerable position rather than a strong one. We are steadily advancing, and we will certainly achieve all of our primary objectives in this military operation. Right now, that's not working out, and on the contrary, everything is turning against them with strikes on their own territory. That is precisely why Moscow serves as the fundamental and absolute key center for the entire country. It functions as the primary concentration point where all national energies and political influences converge, especially when it comes to the incredibly complex process of making the ultimate critical decision to finally bring this war to a complete stop.
Although Russia continues to rely on massive attacks against Ukraine, the war is already being felt in the very heart of the Russian Federation. Strikes on enterprises in the Moscow region prove that a state that was once powerful is now unable to protect itself and is in a very weak position. That is why allies are increasingly investing in joint developments with Ukraine, understanding that Ukrainian experience and technology are becoming the foundation of a new security system in Europe. Karina Laloyan for Freedom TV channel.
But the military fist of Europe on Russia's borders is becoming even stronger. Donald Trump made the decision to send an additional 5,000 American soldiers to Poland. How did Warsaw convince Washington to act? And what is the atmosphere like inside NATO right now? Watch next.
Among them, one of Russia's southern oil refineries was attacked by drones. We are talking about the Slavneft Yanos oil refinery in Yaroslavl. Notably, the governor of the Yaroslavl region, Mikhail Evraev, confirmed a direct hit on it. Slavneft Yanos is the sixth largest oil refinery in Russia by capacity. The facility processes about 15 million tons of oil per year. Analysts note that the increasing drone strikes on Russian oil infrastructure could have serious consequences for the Russian economy.
Here, accordingly, several objectives are being pursued. The physical shutdown of production, economic damage, because restoration will take some time. The restoration process will redirect vital resources from current operations to the ongoing maintenance of the integrity of production facilities and so forth.
The effectiveness of Ukraine's long-range sanctions is reflected in the reduction of Russia's oil refining capacity and the shutdown of some wells. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, just one Russian oil company has already shut down about 400 wells. As a result, in just the first 5 months of 2026, the Russian Federation's budget deficit has already significantly exceeded the figures that the Russian government had projected for the entire year.
Just in these past months, in just the last few months, oil refining volumes in Russia have decreased by 10%. It is also important to note that Russian oil companies are being forced to shut down wells. This is even more significant. The peculiarity of Russian oil production is that this is especially unpleasant for them. Of course, aside from the loss of money, in order to resume production at wells, Russia has to do much more than many other oil-producing countries, which shut down wells simply in response to market fluctuations. Russians can't do that. For them, losing production is truly very painful.
By striking Russian oil infrastructure, Ukraine has deprived the aggressor country of the ability to fully benefit from the rise in global oil prices. This is according to analysts from the Institute for the Study of War. Constant drone strikes on facilities are exacerbating Russia's liquidity problems, which are caused by excessive war spending.
Since March 2026, Ukrainian forces have significantly increased the frequency, range, and intensity of strikes on Russian oil infrastructure, which has had a very substantial and widespread impact on Russian oil exports and refining capacity, effectively depriving Russia of the opportunity to benefit from the significant and sharp rise in global oil prices. The continuation of Ukraine's strikes on Russian oil infrastructure will likely continue to put pressure on Russia's revenues and prevent it from gaining any long-term benefits from the current surge in oil prices. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
Experts say that the effects of the strikes on oil infrastructure may be most fully felt in aviation. After all, a shortage of fuel for airplanes, which are responsible for transportation across the entire country, is critical.
Russia is very large in terms of territory. Aviation is extremely important for its connectivity. In addition, summer is coming soon. The vacation season will start soon, and we will return again to that topic. The uncertainty about whether there will be a shortage in southern Russia due to a shortage of fuel and a shortage of transportation. Constant alerts at airports, just like last year, will hopefully connect them. And travel by land will be limited by the fact that there will be a shortage of gasoline. Overall, all of these various factors should lead to a significant increase in general public dissatisfaction with the war.
The risk of a large-scale gasoline shortage in Russia this summer is increasing, reports the Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service. Major oil refineries are shutting down for repairs en masse for at least a month, which prevents the formation of necessary reserves ahead of the peak demand season. According to intelligence data, the shortage of A95 gasoline is already exceeding exchange statistics and is beginning to impact the domestic market. Unmet demand for this grade of fuel in Russia has exceeded 26,000 tons. Nikita Skoblikov for Freedom TV channel.
What do you think of these events? Comment your thoughts below, leave a like and stay updated on the news. There's more to come.